Stan Minton is a real estate agent living in Los Angeles with what looks like a perfect life. He's loaded with cash and totally in love with his gorgeous wife, Mindy. Stan has a slick way of selling houses, but his tricks involve ripping off clients for small amounts of money. Over time, these shady moves pile up, and one day Stan gets busted for serious fraud. After being found guilty, Stan learns he's facing at least 3 years behind bars. Panicked, he begs his lawyer to slip the judge some cash. The lawyer tries, but the best deal they can swing is a 6-month delay before Stan has to start his sentence. To make it look legit, they stage a fake charity event, but the guilty verdict doesn't budge. After the trial, Stan's lawyer tells him to ditch the country and head to Brazil for good. But with his bank accounts locked, Stan's stuck with no way to skip town. He's forced to wait for his jail time, eaten up by fear and regret. As the days drag on, he gets more nervous, scrambling to enjoy his last bit of freedom. One night during a date with Mindy, she suggests they have a kid so she won't feel so alone while he's gone. Stan shoots down the idea, worried they might have to put the kid up for adoption if something bad happens to him in jail. His answer sparks a fight, and Mindy storms out, leaving Stan feeling awful and lost. Heartbroken, Stan goes for a drive and ends up at a bar. While tossing back drinks, he spots a guy with a prison tattoo and offers him $100 for tips on surviving jail. The guy paints a dark picture. Prison guards don't care about fights or deaths as long as no one escapes. He warns Stan that someone like him will likely be targeted in bad ways. Freaked out, Stan realizes his fears about prison might be spot on. The guy tells Stan to join one of the prison crews, like the Nazis, racists, or certain ethnic groups. But Stan doesn't fit in with any of them. The guy's final tip is brutal. Stan should take someone out early to scare off anyone who might mess with him. The next morning, Stan wakes up hungover, realizing the bar talk wasn't just a nightmare. Mindy reminds him he's still headed to jail, but tries to lift his spirits, saying he always finds a way to beat tough situations. Pumped up, Stan decides to turn himself into a tough guy in the next 6 months. He dives into a hardcore routine, working out every day and even getting a tattoo on his butt to make himself less of a target. Stan also signs up for a karate class to learn how to fight, but he gets impatient with the basics and picks a fight with the instructor, which leads to a brawl with another student. After making a scene, Stan gets kicked out of the dojo. At his lowest, Stan meets a quirky old guy called the Master. The Master blows Stan's mind by punching a hole through a wall like it's nothing. Seeing this as his last shot, Stan invites the Master to move in with him and Mindy to train him in self-defense. Mindy's annoyed, but the weird old guy moves in and starts a wild training plan. On day 1, the Master wakes Stan at 5 a.m. by dumping animal liver blood on his face. He also demands Mindy make a gross smoothie, blending ox pancreas and horse tongues for Stan's breakfast. The training gets crazier and more painful from there. The Master whacks Stan with burning sticks, hangs him by his skin, and forces him to eat scorpions and snakes. Mindy gets fed up with the Master's smoking and bizarre requests. Finally, she lays down an ultimatum. Either the Master leaves or she does. One night, Stan fakes a robbery to show Mindy how scared he is about prison. But when she figures out it's a stunt, she's furious. Packing her bags, she tells Stan she's done and walks out. The Master, though, is stoked about her leaving. With no distractions, he says Stan's training can get even tougher. For the next 5 months, Stan grinds through brutal sessions. Over time, he impresses the Master by holding his own in fights. As a final test, Stan goes back to the karate dojo that booted him out. This time, he easily takes down the instructor, proving he's got skills. With training done, Stan feels ready to tackle prison. On sentencing day, the Master and Stan's lawyer drop him off at court. Mindy, though they're not together anymore, secretly watches from her car as Stan heads into the courthouse. After sentencing, Stan's taken to prison on a bus. During the ride, another inmate tries to mess with him, but Stan fights back quickly, showcasing his newfound strength. At the prison, the inmates meet Warden Gask. The warden, calm but strict, politely tells them not to cause trouble for the guards, but he makes it clear that beyond that, they can do whatever they want to each other. The brutal reality of prison life smacks Stan hard during the cavity check, where the new inmates are told to strip and bend over. When it's Stan's turn, the guards are grossed out by his altered butt, which he purposely made look nasty to keep predators away. After that, Stan gets assigned to his cell and meets his roommate, Larry. Right off the bat, Stan takes charge and tells Larry to take the bottom bunk. Later, Larry breaks down how the prison works, pointing out the different crews. The Black Gang, a group of Mexican tough guys, some Nazis, and a bunch of racists. He also mentions a nerdy group of scientists who scare people by yapping about brainy stuff nonstop. Finally, Larry warns about the worst creep in their block, Big Raymond. It doesn't take long for Stan to see Big Raymond messing with a new guy. Wanting to make a point, Stan boldly steps up to Raymond in front of everyone. Using the fighting skills he learned from the master, he takes Raymond down no sweat. His win catches the eye of Patterson, the head of the Nazi crew, who invites Stan to join them. Instead, Stan shocks everyone by beating up Patterson too. Soon after, the African-American crew comes at Stan, mad that he took on Big Raymond. Trying to ease the tension, Stan cracks a joke, saying he's also black. The crew doesn't laugh. Their leader orders his guys to jump Stan, and another brawl kicks off. Stan handles them all easily while the guards watch, clearly having fun but not stepping in. After these fights, Stan's rep skyrockets. The inmates start calling him Big Stan, and they clear out of his way wherever he goes. Robbie, a younger inmate Stan saved from Big Raymond earlier, comes up to thank him, but Stan blows him off, saying he only fought for himself. Later, Warden Gask calls Stan to his office. He spills that Stan's placement in this prison wasn't random. The warden wants to turn the prison land into a fancy estate and needs Stan's realtor skills to check the paperwork for mistakes. In return, Gask promises to let Stan out after just 1 year. Curious, Stan agrees to help, though the warden won't say how he plans to empty the prison of inmates. Meanwhile, the inmate crews team up against Stan to put him in his place. One day, while Stan's showering, Patterson comes at him with a homemade knife made from a melted toothbrush and a razor blade. Stan, always ready, pulls out nunchucks he crafted from soap bars and a shoelace. Using his training, he quickly takes Patterson down, leaving him hurt and sent to the hospital. Missing Mindy, Stan calls his lawyer to check if she sent divorce papers. To his relief, she hasn't. Feeling hopeful, Stan starts working on the warden's project. While doing so, he meets Dang, a former Vietnamese mafia guy turned politician who's in on Gask's plan to wreck the prison. While working, Stan overhears Gask and Dang talking about their scheme to stir up inmate fights, forcing the guards to shoot some prisoners. This would give the prison board a reason to shut the place down, letting Gask take the land for his own project. Shocked by how messed up their plan is, Stan feels like he's got to protect the inmates, even if a lot of them hate him. Determined, Stan sets up a meeting with the inmates to lay down new rules. First, he bans violent video games and movies, calling them bad influences. Then he says sexual assault is off limits, warning that anyone who tries it will deal with him. The inmates push back at first, but Stan encourages them to try consensual relationships instead. Though it's weird to them, they reluctantly agree. During lunch, Robbie and a few inmates thank Stan for the no assault rule. Stan shrugs it off, saying it's just about keeping control, but Robbie sees through his tough act and knows Stan actually cares about the inmates. Even Big Raymond, once the block's scariest predator, happily starts a consensual relationship with his new boyfriend, thanks to Stan's guidance. The couple soon joins Stan's growing group of allies. Soon after, Stan gets a letter from Mindy responding to his apology. She says she's open to visiting him, giving Stan hope for fixing things. Over the next few days, the prison starts to change. Fights get settled peacefully, and inmates keep asking Stan for advice. Slowly but surely, the vibe in the prison turns into something surprisingly calm. One day, Mindy visits Stan, and they share a touching moment. But their time gets cut short when Warden Gask storms into Stan's cell, pissed about Stan's influence over the inmates. Gask accuses him of ruining their plan to mess up the prison. Gask throws out a scary threat, saying Dang will take Stan out if he doesn't follow orders. The next day, Stan talks to his lawyer, who tells him to go along with Gask since the warden's got a lot of pull. Feeling beat, Stan tells the inmates their problems aren't his issue anymore and to go back to their old ways. The peace Stan built falls apart fast as fights break out, undoing all his work. Robbie tries to talk some sense into Stan in the cafeteria, but Stan rudely tosses Robbie's plate and tells him to scram. Even Larry, Stan's cellmate, is clearly bummed by his attitude. When Larry tries to walk away, Stan stops him and quietly warns him to steer clear of the metal fence at noon. Sensing Stan's under pressure, Larry tells the other inmates and they start planning a response together. Warden Gass sets up a meeting between Stan and the parole board to talk about early release. While Stan's busy with the board, Gass takes the prison's board of governors on a tour of the facility. His plan is to spark his violent scheme at noon, starting fights near the fence to trigger a deadly guard response, letting the governors see the chaos and justify closing the prison. During the parole board meeting, Stan acts like a jerk on purpose to get kicked out fast. This lets him rush out to warn the inmates to stay away from the fence. On his way to the yard, though, Dang stops him and reveals he was also trained by the master. The two get into a wild fight. Dang starts out stronger with his slick moves, but Stan digs deep, using his training to turn things around and knock Dang out. When Stan gets to the yard, the inmates are already by the fence, armed and ready for a showdown. The guards are about to shoot, but just as things get crazy, the inmates shock everyone by breaking into a choreographed dance to a lively Mexican song. The wild performance leaves everyone stunned, and Gask is fuming. Losing it, Gask grabs a gun and shoots wildly into the air, freaking out the board members. The board sees Gask's unhinged behavior and decides to take action against him. Before Gask can go after Stan, Mindy shows up and saves him. Turns out Mindy's been training with the master for the past 6 months, picking up badass fighting skills of her own. The story jumps 3 years later. Stan's done with his sentence and is finally heading home. As he gets ready to leave, the inmates gather to say goodbye. Even Patterson, once his enemy, shows respect with a tattoo of Stan's face on his belly. A nod to the guy who changed the prison's vibe. Outside the gates, Mindy and the master are waiting to pick Stan up. To his shock and joy, Mindy introduces him to their 3-year-old daughter. The moment marks their reunion and the start of a new chapter for their family, full of hope and happiness.